Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking some incredibly powerful source material that takes a hard look at how we manage work, how we manage people, and honestly, how we often totally misunderstand what it actually takes to get things done. We're going to deconstruct the fallacy of pressure in project leadership, and to really get our heads around this, we aren't just going to sit here and talk theory. No, we're going to step right into the shoes of a project manager who is staring down a brewing storm. Let's call her Sarah. She's the lead on a massive, high-stakes software launch. So, get ready, because what we're about to explore is going to challenge some of the most stubborn, deeply ingrained myths in corporate culture today.
So let me ask you, have you ever been asked to deliver the impossible? I mean, picture this. It's 4 p.m. on a Friday. An email hits Sarah's inbox. Or, maybe the executive director calls her into that intimidating glass corner office. She listens to the parameters of this new software launch request. Her heart instantly drops into her stomach, and she just knows the math doesn't add up. It's this universal experience for anyone who has ever managed a project, led a team, or frankly, just held a job. You look at the goal, you look at the reality, and you realize they're existing in two entirely different universes.
And it almost always begins with a phrase exactly like this: just make it happen. Four little words, but man, when they're delivered from above, they carry this massive, suffocating weight. For Sarah, this is the exact moment the anxiety gets passed directly from leadership onto her shoulders, completely bypassing the actual physical mechanics of how work gets done. There's no strategy attached, there's zero negotiation on resources. She's basically just told to figure it out and make the magic happen.
Suddenly, she's staring right down the barrel of the classic project trap. First up, you have a massive, big scope. For Sarah, this isn't just a minor update, right? They want a complete enterprise software migration. They want legacy system integration, a brand new user interface, and seamless data transfer for 10,000 active users. The ambition is sky high. The mountain of deliverables just seems to stretch on forever. But the foundation to actually build the thing, it's completely missing.
Compounding that big scope, you have a notoriously small team. This is the absolute friction of inadequate resources playing out in real time. Sarah doesn't have a dedicated department of senior engineers. She looks to her left, she looks to her right, and she realizes, okay, I've got 3 junior developers, half the time of a single UX designer, and a part-time quality assurance tester. It's like they're being asked to move a mountain with a couple of plastic beach shovels.
And to lock her perfectly into this pressure cooker, she gets handed an incredibly tight deadline. Leadership wants the entire migration live, totally bug-free, and deployed to all users by the end of the month. The clock is relentlessly ticking. Big scope, small team, tight deadline. And yet, despite the literal physics of this impossibility, despite these completely opposing forces, the expectations miraculously never change. The finish line stays exactly where it was.
Section 1. When pressure breaks projects, the descent into chaos.
Okay, let's dive right into the dark reality of what happens next. The traditional management belief is that applying intense pressure to Sarah's scenario is going to force a diamond to form, right? The idea is if you squeeze the team tight enough, they're going to run faster. But the source material vehemently argues the exact opposite. Let's bring this descent into chaos to life for a second. Because Sarah's team is frantic, communication breaks down immediately. The junior devs start building the wrong API integrations because the project brief was incredibly rushed, which creates widespread confusion. To make up for it, they're working until midnight every single night, practically chugging coffee, which triggers massive burnout. And then, because they built the wrong features in a totally sleep-deprived haze, Sarah actually has to order them to tear it all down on a Tuesday, resulting in incredibly demoralizing rework. And finally, because everyone is utterly exhausted and deeply stressed, they start snapping at each other in meetings and making exceptionally poor decisions along the way. So the crucial takeaway here is that all this unmanaged pressure actually forces the project to grind to a total halt. It doesn't speed anything up. It creates a vicious, self-defeating cycle of delays.
Section 2. Clarity creates speed. The turning point.
And this brilliantly illustrates the central thesis of our source material today. We literally have to unlearn the deeply ingrained corporate myth that pressure equals speed. Pressure breaks projects, period. Clarity is what actually generates momentum. When a team knows exactly what the singular priority is, and crucially, when they know exactly what they don't have to do, they can move incredibly fast. For Sarah's team, this means she has to stop letting the panic dictate the workflow. You don't need to yell, you don't need to send frantic midnight messages. You just need to turn on the lights so your team can actually see the path in front of them.
Section 3. The Smart Manager Playbook. Saving the Doomed Project.
So how exactly does Sarah save the migration when everyone around her is losing their minds? Well, smart managers lean on a very specific, logical playbook to introduce that life-saving clarity. Let's walk through how this actually applies to her crisis. First, she prioritizes ruthlessly. She goes through that massive scope and just slashes the nice-to-have features, focusing the junior devs only on the core migration that keeps the system running. Second, she removes friction. She cancels those useless daily hour-long status meetings so her team can actually just, write code. Third, she communicates fast. She establishes direct lines with stakeholders to clear up technical questions in minutes, preventing all that confusion we saw earlier. Fourth, she pushes back with logic. When her boss demands those extra features by the end of the month, she doesn't just complain. She brings a spreadsheet showing exactly how many development hours are physically available versus what's being asked. And fifth, she creates visibility. She builds this brutally honest dashboard that shows the exact reality of the project's progress to the entire company. She rescues her team and the project by building walls of structure right around them.
Section 4. Redefining True Leadership. The Ultimate Project Intervention.
Utilizing that playbook, and specifically the part where you push back against the executives, requires an immense amount of courage. To understand what leadership actually means when the walls are closing in, we have to identify the real villain of our story here: false optimism. The source text points this out as a dangerous mindset that kills projects way faster than bad planning ever could. Think about it. If Sarah had just smiled and said, "Sure, we can do it," to that impossible end-of-the-month deadline, she wouldn't be acting like a team player. She'd be committing project sabotage. Pretending everything is fine when the scope is too big and the team is too small is infinitely worse than a flawed initial strategy, because it robs the entire organization of the chance to pivot before they inevitably crash. It basically throws those 3 junior developers straight under the bus. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the sheer power of just 5 simple words. This deadline is not realistic. Saying this out loud to an executive director or a major client, it feels utterly terrifying. It feels like you're failing or like you're letting the company down. But our source material makes it incredibly clear. Speaking this truth to power is an act of true leadership. It is not a weakness. It requires massive professional bravery. It is the ultimate defense of your team's mental health, and honestly, the ultimate defense of the integrity of the work itself.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to close out our explainer today. It's a question directed at anyone steering the ship. Leaders, do you want speed or do you want visible progress? Do you want the frantic, chaotic illusion of fast motion that ends in a spectacular burnout and a horribly delayed launch? Or do you want the steady, clear, structured march of actual execution? The next time you're tempted to just look at a team and tell them to make it happen, remember this question. Choose clarity over pressure. Thanks for joining me today, Focused Learners. Keep dissecting the details, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.